What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking our top 5 wide receiver steals for the 2023 fantasy football season. Basically, these are all guys outside of the top 25 wide receivers that you can get late in drafts that have huge league winning upside. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Who else would you put on this list and why? Along with any other questions you guys might have, we will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. As you can see, we have got our 2023 ADPs here for the wide receiver position pulled up on a PPR basis via fantasypros. But that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. Like we said, we're going to be looking at guys outside of the top 25 wide receivers. So we begin with the first name on this list being Michael Pittman Jr. of the Indianapolis Colts. Comes in here at number 32. So with Pittman, it's an interesting situation. Last year, I feel like he kind of burned a decent amount of people because his stock right around this time last year was going up and up and up. An early third round pick, something like that. You know, people were saying with Matt Ryan, he was going to be, potentially a Keenan Light type of guy, a PPR stud. Didn't end up going that way. The Colts obviously really struggled last year. Matt Ryan wasn't the answer. But fast forward to this year, it seems like Anthony Richardson could be the answer for the Indianapolis Colts. And look, even if it's not Richardson right away, they've got a guy in Gardner Minshew that has experience, and he can get the ball to his best playmakers. And as it stands right now, Michael Pittman is that for sure as far as the offensive weapons on this team are concerned. Now, yes, Jonathan Taylor is still there, but his current contract situation is an interesting one, even though we believe he's going to play. You could call him maybe now the 1B in terms of offensive weapons on this team, and Michael Pittman becomes the primary guy. I know they added somebody that a lot of us like in the fantasy community, and Josh Downs, a rookie wide receiver. But look, I imagine that the veteran, Michael Pittman, the promising talent, is going to be the primary dude here. And yes, I realize that there's going to be a lot of rushing in terms of this offense, whether it's Jonathan Taylor, whether it's Anthony Richardson. But getting Michael Pittman outside of the top 30 wide receivers, to me, is pretty great value. Like, considering the guys that we've had at the quarterback position throwing the football for the Colts the last few years, a washed-up Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, don't get me started, a washed-up Phillip Rivers, you could argue this is the best quarterback, the most talented quarterback that the Colts are going to have with Anthony Richardson. And I really think Michael Pittman is going to be his go-to guy. The fact that you can get him right around the 80th overall player, that's going to be right around the 7th round, something like that, depending on the size of your leagues. I think Michael Pittman is going to make up for some of those disappointments that we saw last year. And he's going to remind people that, he's one of these really good young wide receivers in the NFL. But let's move on here at number 35, one of our favorite wide receivers, Marquise Brown of the Arizona Cardinals. And we were talking up Marquise Brown last year. We told anyone that would listen, look, until DeAndre Hopkins returns for the Cardinals, Marquise Brown is going to be a stud. And that is exactly what happened. When Kyler Murray was throwing Marquise Brown the football, the guy was a fantasy just weapon all around, especially in PPR formats. He was getting force-fed the football, the primary weapon for the Cardinals. And now with no more DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to be Marquise Brown yet again, folks. Like, in terms of the wide receivers on this team, Marquise Brown is still the alpha by far and away. And I'm of the mindset that Kyler Murray is going to return sooner rather than later. And even though the Arizona Cardinals offense isn't going to be one of the best in the NFL, guess what? That doesn't matter from a fantasy perspective, because let's say they can't get the running attack going. Guess what they're going to do? And, they're down by a bunch. They're going to air out the football. They're going to air out the football. And it's going to be going to Marquise Brown. He is going to have a huge target share on this offense. I'm extremely excited about it. I'm not too worried about the Kyler Murray factor. Like I said, I think he's going to be back sooner rather than later from his ACL injury. I think right now getting Marquise Brown basically, again, in the 7th round as your maybe, flex wide receiver or maybe a bench guy, that is insane value. I have Marquise Brown ranked as a top 20 wide receiver. So I'm very, very bullish on him. And again, you don't have to look far. He's got the proven track record. He did it last year, folks. So let's not make this too complicated. Marquise Brown is somebody that I am very, very excited about. At number 3 on our list, we go just a little bit further down. We go to Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings. And it's not often that I list rookie wide receivers on, on rankings like these. But I think with Jordan Addison, he's going to see a lot of opportunities. And the reason I've said that is because first and foremost, obviously no more Adam Thielen. So Addison kind of slots into that Adam Thielen role, or at least that wide receiver 2 role for the Minnesota Vikings. On top of that, he's playing opposite Justin Jefferson. That's going to take away a lot of pressure, a lot of coverage from the rookie wide receiver. Also, if you look at it, well, the Vikings invested pretty high draft capital in Jordan Addison, so that they feel confident in him. And the best thing here is, sometimes we have teams that don't unleash rookies right away. Well, the Vikings, they're not one of those teams. I mean, hell, we saw it with Justin Jefferson just a couple years ago. And I think Jordan Addison could be that next example. Sure, we've got TJ Hawkinson there, who the Vikings traded for in the middle part of last season. He saw a lot of targets last year, but I think those are going to get redistributed. I think Jordan Addison is going to see a lot of opportunities, and getting him as a bench wide receiver, and then God forbid something happens to Justin Jefferson, the value for Jordan Addison is going to go exponentially up. So to me, there are so many factors here that work in favor of Jordan Addison that make him somebody that is an absolute steal at his current ADP. But let's continue moving on here. We're going to scroll down a little bit further. We go to Allen Lazard of the New York Jets, coming in at number 51. So we're outside of the top 50 wide receivers. And I think this is a really good example to show you that there's still really good value at the wide receiver position later on compared to the running back position. Now, Allen Lazard, if you guys were in tune last year with us, you knew that we liked him on the Packers. And, to some extent, to kick off the season, we were hitting on those projections. Unfortunately, Allen Lazard then got banged up. We saw the Packers utilize him heavily as a run blocker. It was one of those situations. And then the rookies were kind of given their opportunities. And Lazard didn't end up finishing the season the way he started it. But, now being the number 2 wide receiver opposite Garrett Wilson, I think that's going to be a role that, is a much better fit for Allen Lazard compared to him having to shoulder all of the responsibilities of being the number 1 wide receiver like he was in Green Bay. Obviously, he's reunited with Aaron Rodgers. And I've said this before, but Aaron Rodgers is one of my favorite late-round quarterbacks. Look, if it was another quarterback throwing him the football, for God's sakes, if it was Zach Wilson throwing Allen Lazard the ball, he wouldn't make it on this list. But I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I think he had a down year last year, and I think, anyone would agree with that. I think he's going to be one of the favorites for comeback player of the year. I think he's going to remind people why he's a multi-time MVP, why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. This Jets team, to me, is a lot better than what the Packers had in terms of talent offensively. You could argue defensively as well. And I think Allen Lazard, as the 1B on this team, is really going to benefit. I think he's going to set career highs altogether. And basically getting him as a double-digit pick in terms of rounds, I really like that opportunity. But now let's look at the number 5 name on our list, and that is Elijah Moore of the Cleveland Browns. Now, depending on the platforms you've been, drafting on, he's a little bit higher than what I feel like here at this number 53 spot. And I think people have kind of been coming around to his value. And I've been saying this for a while now. I think Elijah Moore, we're only a year removed from him being a guy that a lot of the fantasy community really liked, had high hopes for. He showed out some good opportunities with the Jets. Unfortunately, it was really limited. There's only so much you can do when you got Zach Wilson again throwing you the football. But now he goes to Cleveland. And again, let's keep in mind, the Browns, it's not like they traded just a 7th round pick or something like that for him. They gave up decent draft capital, all things considered, for Elijah Moore. And now playing with Deshaun Watson opposite Amari Cooper, I think Elijah Moore is going to see a lot of opportunities here. I think we could see, both these guys potentially have 1,000-yard type of season, both Moore, both Amari Cooper. We know the injury history with Amari Cooper as well, so Elijah Moore may be a little bit of an insurance policy there on top of that. I think Deshaun Watson is another one of these quarterbacks that is going to have a much better 2023 than 2022 for obvious reasons. He's actually going to have a full off season. Some of that rust before from not playing is going to be removed. And I think all these things are going to benefit that entire offense. Elijah Moore has a quarterback upgrade. I think we could see a little mini, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle type of situation here. Obviously to a lesser extent because, there's no Tyreek Hill type of talent on this offense. Amari Cooper is good, but not quite Tyreek Hill good. But either way, I really like both these wide receivers. I think both Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore are really good values, and both can get over 1,000 yards receiving. I would just rather go with the cheaper option. By far, to me, that is Elijah Moore. I wouldn't be surprised if his ADP does go up a little bit as we, get closer to the start of September. But for now, he continues to remain a value and a guy that I love targeting and taking a chance on as somebody that starts out on my bench and then potentially ends up being a starter for the remainder of the season. But with that, we wrap up our top 5 wide receiver steals for the 2023 fantasy football season. All the guys that can be league winners for you. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.